Stocks having trouble holding on to their earlier gains. The Dow is up 52 points, but it had been up a lot more than that. The problem may be a rise in the yield on the 10-year Treasury and the 2-year Treasury. Now, listen to what President Trump had to say about free speech in the United Kingdom.
The British Empire laid the foundations of law, liberty, free speech, and individual rights virtually everywhere the Union Jack has ever flown.
Douglas Murray with me now. All right, Douglas, could Britain's free speech issue, I believe it's a problem in Britain, could it be a sticking point in trade negotiations?
It could be, and it's something that the wiser figures in the UK government should become aware of. Specifically, there's an issue. First of all, on whether whether what's happened physically in terms of arrest of UK citizens for so-called hate speech, controversial speech, usually online, could affect US citizens. People are thinking of a case of an Irish citizen who landed back in the UK after being in America recently and was arrested by 5 armed police at Heathrow for a tweet he'd sent. But secondly, and I think perhaps more significantly, is the issue of American platforms and American-owned platforms and the UK and indeed the EU trying to reach into the rights of those platforms for free speech to effectively try to grab and censor free speech on American-owned platforms.
Is it possible that President Trump will be unwilling to make concessions to the Brits on the trade agreement because of the free speech issue? Could it go that far?
It could. Not, it's something that the president has spoken about before. The vice president, J.D. Vance, of course, has spoken about pretty regularly, and it's something that obviously concerns them. And I think it's an issue of principle for them. But if you look at some of the thought that's going on in the UK and from the UK, it's terribly revealing. Former Deputy Prime Minister Nick Clegg, who after being turfed out of office by the voters in 2015, went to work for Mark Zuckerberg at Meta, has just given an interview just a day or two ago claiming that the US government and figures in the US government have been responsible for, quote, political interference. And the examples he gave for that were that figures like Elon Musk, who of course is no longer involved in the American government, have had meetings with and spoken to opposition groups across Europe. Nick Clegg, as I say, only just left Meta. It's very telling. Would have used his first major interview to accuse the members of the American government of interfering in foreign elections for meeting opposition leaders, for instance, in Britain, Nigel Farage, in Germany, the AfD. So these are the sorts of allegations that are being thrown around from critics of the Trump administration, from people who've been very recently in the tech sector, or indeed are still within it. It tells us about the thinking of these people. And of course, for American voters, this is particularly important because American voters remember what actual political interference looks like and what attempts to make election interference look like. And this is a very unpersuasive argument, but it's one that you hear specifically coming from people from Britain and from Europe. And it's deeply concerning, and it's something that's clearly on the agenda of the president and vice president.
I'm going to backtrack for a moment. The Brits really rolled out the red carpet for President Trump. Would you say that the UK needs President Trump? How badly does the UK need him?
They do. Like you, Stuart, I'm old enough to remember Trump's first term in office and the lamentable efforts on the part of the British government to get a trade deal with the US then. The British government didn't, it kept governments, they were changing every few months. The governments did not have their house in order. They didn't respond fast enough to trade deal questions and queries from the Trump administration, and they couldn't get it over the line, despite 4 years of very good intent to do a trade deal from Donald Trump's first administration. This time it's been totally different. And I don't think it's because of any particular superior negotiating qualities on the part of the Labour government in the UK. It's more to do simply with the fact that this time everybody was in a hurry, and rightly so, to get a trade deal between the two countries as swiftly as possible. On the part of the Trump administration, some people think it's mysterious or somehow hard to understand how this has happened, but I don't think it is. Donald Trump has enormous affection for the UK. He does regard it not just as an ally, but as the mother country of the United States of America. His very warm words at the banquet last night were a reminder of that. And personally speaking, as a British subject who nevertheless lives and works in America, it was wonderful to hear the US-UK relationship spoken about in such unabashedly glowing terms. There are many sort of bits of pabulum and cliches that people run out at these times, but I don't think Trump did that. It was a very warm and glowing speech about our shared present and shared history.
Douglas, you are right. And thanks for joining us. Douglas Murray right there.